Join the military, you know some of your freedoms will be restricted, clothes, a haircut, politics, etc. Well, a U.S. general's gone ahead and actually restricted reproduction. Soldiers in his sector of Iraq, male, female, face punishment if they're involved in a pregnancy. Seems like this would open up a legal can of worms. Joining us now from Washington, military law attorney Eugene Fidel. He's also the president of the National Institute of Military Justice. Thank you so much, Professor, for your time. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
When you first heard about the development with this policy in place, led by a major general in northern Iraq, what was your reaction?
My reaction was that this was going to be terrific material to teach in my military justice class at Yale Law School.
Okay, so what exactly are you teaching when you look at this policy that has been in place now for a little more than a month?
Right. What it is valuable for, I think, is highlighting the intersection between the kind of personal autonomy that all Americans are used to and demand on the one hand, and on the other hand, the obvious interest of the military in preserving good order and discipline. And those two forces sort of interact or intersect in General Kukulow's order.
Now, you have to look at the basics of military law when you look at this new policy. How can the military actually create this policy and make pregnancies punishable?
Well, the military does have the right to issue what are called general orders. These are orders issued by a senior commander, and they're binding on people who are subject to that individual's directions. And some of these orders may invade areas of personal autonomy that you or I might assume were nobody else's business in the civilian community, but in the military environment, they're very much the management's business. For example, things like what kind of inoculations do you have to get? Anthrax? That's a matter of personal choice if you're a civilian, but if you're in the military, the management can instruct you and require you to have that done.
All right. A moment ago, you mentioned the Major General who crafted this policy. He oversees an area that includes Kirkuk, Tikrit, Mosul, and Samarra. I want to highlight what he has said recently about this policy. I've got a mission to do. I'm given a finite number of soldiers with which to do it, and I need every one of them. So I'm going to take every measure I can to keep them all strong, fit, and with me for the 12 months we are in the combat zone. What is your reaction to what he has to say about why he is instituting this policy?
It doesn't surprise me at all. Obviously, they had some number of pregnancies that were occurring there, and obviously you want to take care of your GIs who become pregnant, but that then creates a vacancy that has to be filled by somebody, because we don't have a lot of GIs kind of milling around. They're all there for a purpose. So I actually do understand quite clearly why the general issued this order.
You mentioned the number of pregnancies.
It raises interesting issues.
Well, you also mentioned the number of pregnancies possibly happening in that area. What is it that you think exactly led to this new policy that's been created?
I assume there was an uptick in pregnancies, and they just, on some level, got sick and tired of having to evacuate people and then have vacancies that they weren't able to fill. Remember, the military, even though enlistment seemed to be adequate, is stretched kind of thin. We've demanded extraordinary work from the National Guard, from the reserves, and from the active component of the military. And every person who's not there that should be there create some kind of hardship for somebody else. So I do understand what the impulse must have been.
Okay, you say you understand the impulse, you understand what their motives are, but when you look at reproductive rights and civil rights, are they being potentially violated?
They're being violated if you apply the standards of the civilian community. But in the military environment, those standards get, they morph and they get qualified. What is, for example, a reasonable expectation of privacy in the military? It's much different from what you or I would expect. Other aspects of personal conduct. You show up late. Well, that's no big deal in the civilian community, probably. In the military, that's a very big deal. So things do vary. Another illustration is military officers are forbidden under pain of criminal punishment to speak contemptuously of the president or other high officials. In the civilian community, everybody does that to their heart's delight. That's the meaning of
certainly a different environment for those that are serving overseas.